What's up, guys? Welcome to all the new people that just like my page. Thanks for being here. Hopefully I can provide value to everyone here and tell everyone a little bit more about how I got started with real estate using this 203K loan. I'm dressed up because I'm going out to dinner in a little bit with my family, but just wanted to jump on a little bit and talk a little bit more about the 203K loan and why it's the only loan that I think everyone should use, no matter you're a first-time home buyer, you want to invest in real estate, you want to flip a house, you want to create a rental, you want to house hack, you want to do any type of buying a house, especially if it's your first house. So a little backstory on how I found out about it. I was a member of a lot of different real estate organizations and ended up meeting someone who was, knew a lot about the industry, and she had heard of something called the 203K loan. The 203K loan is really a government loan that is meant for people to buy any house. It's an FHA loan, which for people that aren't familiar, FHA loan are federal loans, and they're backed by the federal government, which means you don't need to put down a conventional down payment of 20% of a purchase price of a home. So if, for example, you have a $100,000 home, typically a person, if you wanted to buy the house, would have to put down, 20% or $20,000. With an FHA loan, you're able to put down a down payment as little as 3.5%, which is only $3,500 in that example. So $3,500 to get into a house, especially if you're doing some sort of strategy, which is like what I did, to leverage that money into house hacking or having a tenant come in and pay your mortgage for you. It's a really low down payment for what you get. So the loan seems complex, and I never really heard of it, but essentially I talked to this girl, Melissa, and she told me a little bit about it, and I was just kind of blown away by it. I really didn't understand the intricacies of the whole thing, and for the most part, I didn't really know how to go about it. So I did some research. There really isn't much research on that, and I really thought that this was the only way that I could do it. I spoke a little yesterday about hard money lending and just saving up for a conventional down payment for a rental property, looking for short sales, looking for anything out there, wholesaling. These are all things that are strategies that get pushed around a lot on the internet and through guru websites and stuff like that, and they all work in their own special way, but for me, I couldn't get any of those things to work. Wholesaling just required so much work up front, and there's really so many loopholes or not so much loopholes, but issues you have to deal with every day, like dealing with all the marketing budgets that you need to do. You need to knock on doors, you need to drive around. It's a lot of hustle, but for little reward. At the end of the day, you're not really investing anything. When people say wholesaling, I don't say that there's anything wrong with it. It requires a lot of hustle, but it's not real estate investing. You're doing a lot up front. You're finding a deal for someone else. Someone else is then getting that deal, and they're using the investment. You're just basically making a commission on finding them a deal. If you want to do that, you could just go to any sales office and pretty much just go sell cars and get the same type of scenario, right? It's commission. So to really get a feasible investment, which means you own a property, you rent it out, and you get cash flow on that property every month, that's an investment, and that's really where real estate is powerful. Flipping houses too, it really just, it's doing real estate, but it's not real estate investing. Flipping is a job, right? You buy a house, you build it up, you make it look nice, you list it back on the market, and you pray it ends up selling for more than you put into it, right? That's business, right? It's pretty much what you do in business. If you make cakes, you get all the pieces to build a cake, you build the cake, and you hope that you can sell the cake for more than you paid to get the ingredients for the cake. So it's really all the same thing. Real estate investing, the beauty in it is that you're having someone else pay your mortgage and pay you. Your money, in my case, I put $9,500 down. That's paid me 20-fold by this point. And it's all because I used my money to work for me. So the 203K is really different in that way, in that it's not like a hard money loan where you need to have 20% of the down payment, and then you have to pay interest only for however many months, right? So with a hard money loan, typically you have to put down like a good chunk, 20% or more. Again, if you're looking at a $200,000 property, that's $40,000. Plus you have to usually pay every month to have that, just like a mortgage. You're paying an interest only loan, and you're paying the hard money lender every month. And that's $2,000 a month, or whatever you could imagine at that rate. Then you have to pay points up front. There's a lot of money. I mean, there's a house I'm doing now, and I'm into it for tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and it's a hard money loan. Now, the only reason I have that money is because I have that money for my first deal, and that comes later. But for your first deal, a hard money loan is not the way to go, unless you really are savvy and you really know what you're doing, or you're a contractor or something like that. Hard money loans are really tough. The other way of doing it is doing some sort of seller financing or some other crazy thing that you might hear out there. Doing deals with low to no money down. Those are really few and far between, and everyone's in the real estate market right now, and it's really difficult to find deals like that anymore. People know what they have. It's still a seller's market in most parts of the United States, and while that happens, people are savvy enough to know that they shouldn't get ripped off, and they can really get top dollar for their properties. So that kind of gets thrown out the window. The other way is to pay all cash for a property, and me and pretty much no one I know around here in New York, unless you're a hedge fund or something else, can buy a property straight up and flip it. I don't have 250 grand laying around. Pretty much 99% of the population doesn't have that. So the easiest barrier of entry, the lowest barrier of entry is the 203K loan, and that's because it's an FHA loan and you only need to put down 3.5% of the purchase price. In addition to that, you get a full what's the best way to describe it? So basically they cover your entire rehab cost as well into your mortgage. So in my case, I had a $270,000 house, okay? And I had to put about $80,000, maybe $90,000 into it. I think I'm all into the property for $350,000. So I was paying a mortgage on $350,000. Now, the down payment was only on the purchase price of the house. So the rehab is really nothing I'm even paying for. My tenants that are there now are paying for that rehab. That's the beauty of it. So I'm only putting down a little bit amount of my money to get the ball rolling. But once I get the tenants in, they're paying my mortgage, they're paying, and essentially they're paying the rehab. So that's really the beauty of the whole thing, is you're leveraging yourself into your first deal with a small down payment, and the options you have once you get into that deal are crazy. There's really 3 different ways you can take this. One, I think if you're a first-time home buyer, it's the best way to make your first property an investment and not a liability. The biggest lie people tell you across the board, realtors tell you across the board, is that a home is is your biggest and best investment. That's false. Okay, your first home is a liability. Your first home is a empty white canvas that you paint on with money every month. Yes, you have a mortgage. Yes, you pay it. I won't go into too much about this, but all I'll say is look at your truth in lending statement when you buy a house, okay? It's not an investment. An investment pays you more than what you put into it. If you buy a house, you're usually paying over a 30-year mortgage, double the amount that you pay for your house. and you're paying that little by little every month. Banks are smart, okay? So pretty much a way around that is to use a 203K loan. That being is you can buy a foreclosure property or a rundown property. You can get into the property, do the rehab on it, and for what you're in for, in my case, I put $350,000 down onto this property. That was what I'm paying my mortgage on. But after doing all the renovations and the appraisal came back about how much it's worth after doing all the renovations, actually the property's worth close to $500,000. So that means just on the front end, if I just continue to live there, now I have $130,000 of equity in the house that I could do whatever I want with. I could take out a home equity line of credit to do more deals. I can sell it, tomorrow, and, hopefully it'll stay on the market for a little while, of course, and hopefully it sells for around there. But even if it sold for $450,000, I'm still making $80,000 on it, and I can go leverage that into another deal. So that's the first thing. Second thing is for people doing house hacking. Okay, FHA loans, you're allowed to buy up to a 4-unit property. So I urge everyone that gets a 203K, if they're okay with living in a multi-unit property, which I really think anyone should if they're looking to really be to leverage their way into real estate. You only have to do it for about a year or two, or until you're ready to move on to your next house. Buy a 2-unit, buy a 3-unit, and live in one, and have tenants in the other, and have them pay your mortgage. Again, you're getting in, you're having them pay your mortgage. In some cases, if you have enough units, you can have them pay and cover your mortgage and pay you, and you have money in your pocket. That's what I have in mind. I have a duplex property, and I, lived in it for the better part of the year. I didn't really live in it though. I was there, and it was my primary residence. And that's what I showed on paper, but I was doing the rehab. The rehab of the property was really long, and it took about 8 months to do. So after that 8 months, I was able to refinance out, and I never actually got to live in the property. But when I refinanced out, I was able to rent out both units. And now, I have a property where I get a cash flowing property every month. I make $2,000 a month. In, 5 months, I already cover what I put down, and I get it back in my pocket. That $2,000 a month helps me pay for this apartment that you see behind you. Okay? So that's the second option. The third option is really just to do what my strategy was, and that was to use a couple different methods and do it all at once. Basically, what I did is a combination of a couple things. It's a B quadruple R: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Okay, that is big on bigger pockets. And essentially, that's what I did with this. I also house hacked. Okay, I came in it, I lived in it for the better part of a first year, and at the other part of the year, I was paying the mortgage in the beginning, and there's a little trick to get around that I found out after the fact. But that's again another reason why the FHA loans are so awesome, because you could basically build in your first couple months payments while you're waiting for the house to be done into your mortgage, and you don't have to even pay. It's like no money down for 6 months type of thing. So that's another way that I did it. And then, and now it's a rental property as well. Okay. So I refinanced out, and it's now a rental. A cash flowing rental is the absolute best asset you can have, pretty much in the world, in my opinion. And those are the main aspects as to why this thing works so well. They make you work for it again. And really what I'm here to do is teach everyone how to use these different methods and use these different strategies to make this work for you in your area. I want to teach everyone what to look for, what I looked for when I did this. And really every day I'm just going to keep on digging more and more into content on how to get you guys into your first deal using a lot of these resources that you have that aren't really commonly known. All right. So, yeah, this is a quick one. I just wanted to get out there, tell everyone a little bit more about 203K loans. And please, if you have any questions, comment below, and we will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Cheers.